Hello and welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris.
My name is Justin.
And my name is Mike. As always, we like to start off every episode talking about what's on our minds, which is usually the media we've been watching or reading. Then, for our feature review, we will be doing a double review with The Favourite, written and directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, and then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Both will contain a spoiler-free section before moving into spoilers.
Yes, and make sure that you don't forget, each month we review a film from the Criterion Collection, which is voted on by you, the listeners. So go check out last month's episode on Tokyo Story, and look for our next episode, which was just voted in. It's going to be on Mulholland Drive. It won with a whopping 54%, and The Samurai was behind it by 33%, and True Stories bringing up the rear at 13%. So, yeah, that was how we won, and I'm looking forward to watching Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, someone actually tweeted on a post that was saying something like actual footage of you guys trying to talk about Mulholland Drive, and posted a picture of, or a gif of nonsense, basically.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but yeah, basically it's going to amount to that. That movie is going to be hard to talk about. I didn't really think about how we would approach that whenever I thought about selecting it, but I guess
you just wanted it for Christmas, yeah.
Hopefully we haven't bitten off more than we can chew.
Indeed. Okay, so anyways, look forward to that.
Yeah, so if you want to send in your questions for us to discuss about Mulholland Drive or any other film that we're watching, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. You can also email your questions to casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And as always, don't forget to go onto iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and also subscribe to us on iTunes or, whatever podcast platform that you listen to your podcasts on. We're on all of them.
Yeah, and make sure you tell a friend. That'd be great. Thanks.
All right, and with that, go on.
Justin's back, everybody.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm sorry to steal your thunder.
No worries. But anyway, welcome back, Justin.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. I was missing it last week. It was sad.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anybody about any movies the whole week.
Yeah.
It's not as if you were busy doing anything up there. So I would, for one, I don't know about Mike, but I would like to hear all about your adventures in New York City.
Cool. Why don't we do that in the What's on Our Minds section? What do you think?
Wait, have we not moved on to that?
No, that's what I was trying to do.
Oh, my bad.
And you kept interrupting me. All right, Justin. Now that we are in the right section for this conversation, how was your week in New York, man?
Man, it was good. It was not quite a week. I guess it was 4 days, but it was over a weekend, and it was good, man. It's a lot of fun. I've never been before, so it was my first time, and it's a pretty rad city. Have either of you guys been?
No, I've never been.
I've never been.
What did you do?
Well, I did a lot of things. I did kind of some of the main touristy things, walked through Times Square and went to see the Statue of Liberty. I guess I'll get the biggest news out first is that I got engaged. So I proposed to my girlfriend while we were there in New York, and she said yes.
Yeah.
I'm clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome, and it was a lot of fun. I did it in front of the big Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center, right in the middle of probably 4,000 people, which was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But
what if she had said no?
I know. Well, it would have made. It was the first night of the trip too, so it would have been a horrendous rest of the trip had she said no.
I know. You would be on Reddit under a watch people die inside. Or
That's
cringe.
true. It is most of the proposal is on cell phone video because I was recording it on my phone, and then there was a couple of people next to us that realized what I was doing and were like, "Let me take your phone and video it for you." And they stopped recording for part of it, but they
and then ran away with your phone.
Yeah. No.
But seriously, really. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. It was good. Obviously, that's one of the bigger highlights of the trip. But outside of that, I went to go see a play on Broadway, which was called The Waverly Gallery. And it's not a musical. It's a regular play. And it starred Elaine May, who wrote some films with Mike Nichols, and also starred Lucas Hedges, who's super hot right now, and Michael Cera, and Joan Allen. And Joan Allen's been in a lot of stuff, but the thing I know her from, sadly, is the Notebook. She's the mom, Rachel McAdams' mom in The Notebook, but it had all four of those people in it, and it was actually a really great play. It was my first like professional play experience, my first Broadway experience, and it was awesome.
Hey, wait, what do you mean professional play? You've seen a lot of my plays, Justin.
Well, I said what I said.
Damn it.
I didn't make a mistake. Yeah, that's awesome. How was it?
I mean, the play was great. It was really good. It was written by Kenneth Lonergan, who he did Manchester by the Sea a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Which was it was great. It was about like a older woman dealing with Alzheimer's, and Lucas Hedges plays her grandson, Joan Allen plays her daughter, and Michael Cera plays like a painter. She owns an art gallery, and he comes in and she lets him like live in the back of the gallery and put up an art show. And
how is Michael Cera?
Funny. Surprisingly good. Like he actually has like the smallest part out of everyone in the play, which I thought the play only has like 5 people in it total.
Yeah.
But he has the smallest part, which surprised me since he's Michael Cera, but he was very good in it, and very like he was a bit of comic relief, which
that's interesting.
Well.
You don't. I mean, maybe I'm alone in this. Maybe this is just my total ignorance, but I never really associated Michael Cera with like stage actor. You know.
Me neither, but apparently he's done a few different performances like that. This is his 3rd Kenneth Lonergan play to be in. So I guess they have like a relationship, and this is not his first time.
I feel like it's a pretty standard thing that most actors go and do theater in between movies and stuff.
Yeah, but it's worth it if anyone's in New York. And in my experience, you get to hang out after the show. You can hang out like where the actors leave, and some of them will come by and like say hey and sign stuff and take photos with you. I got to meet Joan Allen and got to meet Lucas Hedges, and like get a photo with him and get his autograph and kind of talk to him a little bit, but not much because I didn't want to annoy him, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
I wanted to ask him about his role in mid-90s and if there was more that got cut out of the film because I wanted more from his character in there, or if like that's just how his character was always intended to be. But I thought that might come off rude, so I didn't.
that would actually probably be like one of the more interesting things he could have been asked.
Probably so.
It's probably more than like, you're cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I wanted to ask him if I had actually like tried to hold a conversation with him. Probably "you're cool" would have been the only thing to come out.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I never really want or have a want to approach celebrities.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what would I say?
For sure. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. The other 2 bigger things that we did, I saw the Nutcracker in New York City Ballet, which is my first ballet experience as well. I've never been to one of those, and that was pretty cool.
Would you go to another?
I mean, I would, I guess. And it's kind of one of those things that like I'm like a musician, right? So like I play instruments and like really into paying attention to like the musicianship of music. Like I listen to a lot of metal music, but I kind of ignore the screaming and I just listen to like the music and pay attention to that. And so like I found myself watching the orchestra most of the time because from our seats you could see right down in the orchestra pit. So I was watching that a lot of the time, like probably like 50-50 split with like the ballet and the actual dancing. So in some ways, like I kind of wonder if I would enjoy a pure orchestra performance more.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those, and I enjoy them.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't listen to like that kind of music like in my car, right? But
right.
I could watch it be performed all day, you know?
Yeah. And I found myself fascinated by the member of the orchestra who played the triangle because he would play it like here and there, and then he would be gone for like 20 minutes. And he would just like
I don't
leave.
want to accidentally set this thing off. I got to get out of here.
Right.
So he would literally leave?
Yeah. Like he would just be there playing the triangle, and then when the triangle was done, he'd like walk away for a while and come back.
Go to the green room.
Yeah. It's like that guy just plays like the triangle for like 3 minutes and then takes off. And like that's, I don't know if that's his full-time job, probably not, but it seemed pretty cushy.
Right. Just waiting around to play that triangle again.
Yeah. And lastly, the other cool thing I did was I went to a taping of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, which was super cool. And really fun and funny. That guy, even in person, is like super charismatic and charming. And because he comes out a little before they start recording and kind of talks to the audience and does like a Q&A section before. And just as charming and funny as he is on camera, off. It's impressive.
That's awesome. I'm probably most jealous of that thing.
Yeah, it's probably like the most like universally cool experience.
Yeah, although I've always wanted to go to like a Broadway play, so.
Yeah, that's what I would have picked if I could pick between those three things. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Any Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, we went to see the Statue of Liberty. It was my least favorite thing we did, though.
Yeah? Any pictures?
Wait, why? Because you hate freedom?
Yeah. Freedom sucks.
Did you take pictures from on top of the Statue of Liberty out of the crown?
No, we didn't go up in it. Like, you have to buy tickets.
What? No wonder it was your least favorite part.
You have to buy tickets to go up in it, and they were all sold out.
What? They can sell out?
Yeah, apparently.
You could have gone home and watched X-Men 1.
That's true. I could have gone home and watched Jungle to Jungle 2. Or Jungle to Jungle also. Jungle 2 is a real movie.
And then there's also Little Indian Big City, or something like that.
Right.
That came out the same time and was basically the same movie without Tim Allen.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, it was my least favorite part because like you're on the water and it's like 10 to 15 degrees cooler than it is in the city. And it was already like 30 degrees in the city, and being from Texas, it was pretty cold for me. So when we got on the water and it was like 15 to 20 degrees with like heavy winds, it was brutal.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, that was it. It was a great trip. I can't wait to go back. Like, I was sad that I had to leave a bit, but all good things must come to an end, much like this segment, I'm sure.
Well, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. And it's super cool that you had a fun time in New York and got to do lots of cool stuff. Hopefully you get to go again soon.
Yeah, congratulations too, by the way. Super excited for that.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Is that all we've got today?
That's all that's been on my mind is Justin in New York, so.
Thank you.
All right. Well, in that case, it's time to move into our review of The Favourite.
I apologize for my appearance. I hoped I might be employed here by you. As something.
A monster for the children to play with, perhaps.
It is important to make new friends in court, is it not?
You're so beautiful.
Stop it, you mock me.
If I were a man, I would ravish you.
You have become close to Abigail.
She is a viper.
You're jealous.
You must send Abigail away.
I do not want to.
Let's shoot something.
Okay, so as always, we will be doing a spoiler-free review for the first few minutes, and we will give you a big noticeable spoiler alert before we move into spoilers so that you don't get anything spoiled.
All right, The Favourite. Written and directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Starring Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz. The IMDb synopsis says, in early 18th century England, a frail Queen Anne occupies the throne, and her close friend, Lady Sarah, governs the country in her stead. When a new servant, Abigail, arrives, her charm endears her to Sarah.
Yeah, awesome.
So who wants to get it started with their overall thoughts on The Favourite? I nominate Justin. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right here because you were most looking forward to this movie, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I don't mind going first at all. It's been the longest since I've done one of these, so I guess it's my turn.
Yeah. Continue the spotlight.
All right. So you're right. This film was in my most anticipated films of fall of 2018, an episode we did a while back. I can't exactly remember if it was number 1 or number 2, but I'm pretty sure it was one of those two spots. But I was very excited about this film, which is unusual because personally, I tend to find myself struggling to get into any sort of old English costume drama. Films like this, films like Elizabeth or Young Victoria, all those sort of things. It's just not a time period that interests me too much. So I just struggled to be into it. But what got me excited about it was Lanthimos' previous work. Yeah, because some of it I love, and that some of it is Killing of a Sacred Deer, which came out last year. I think that movie is amazing. It's really good. I also saw his movie The Lobster, which to me is decent but not great. But because of my love of Killing a Sacred Deer, I was excited, and everything that I loved about Killing of a Sacred Deer is all present in this film. And it was kind of clear to me watching the trailer that that was all going to be present in this film. So that, helped get me excited. What I didn't expect and what wasn't totally clear to me based on the trailer was just how funny this film would be. That surprised me. And in that sense, the film exceeded my expectations. I was excited about it. I thought, okay, at the very least, I think I will like this film. But I actually ended up really liking it a lot. I think it's like a visually fascinating movie. It has a lot of unconventional lens choices and compositional choices that I find like endlessly fascinating. And it's one of the things that fascinated me about Killing of a Sacred Deer as well. This movie, though, it has also 3 incredible performances. Like, I think all 3 female leads, Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Olivia Colman, are amazing in it. The script seemed very funny to me and very well written and smart. It's very dry, which is a humor I tend to like. And in that sense, I kind of feel like there are some jokes that maybe I didn't catch the first time, or moments that were funnier than they seem on the first time. And it reminded me a lot of There Will Be Blood in that sense, which is a film that I found the more I watch, the funnier it gets. And the more certain things that I think were always intended to be funny get more noticeably funny, if that makes sense. Like there's
definitely.
There's some things that happen that just seem like moments, but on repeat viewings, like I'm like, oh, that's a joke. Like, or that was intended to be funny.
Fun fact, everyone who didn't know it, There Will Be Blood is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm convinced after seeing that movie, probably 15, 16 times now, like it's a straight comedy. And I probably realized that after like 5 times, but it's pretty much a straight comedy. But anyway, so back to The Favorite. I really like this film a lot. I think it's great. I think it'll take me watching a lot of really good movies between now and the end of the year to knock The Favorite out of my top 10, because I think it's going to be in there. That is it for what I think. So, Chris, you want to go next?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any other Yorgos Lanthimos.
Nailed it.
Say that again. Yeah, nailed it. Any others of his films, and Justin's a big fan, and he talks about him quite a bit. And so I was excited to see this film, and it was also a part of his top 5 most anticipated list. So yeah, very excited to see this, and especially being my first film from him, and everybody that's talked about it around all his other films. And there's quite a bit of hype for this film, and people saying how great it was, and saying exactly the same thing Justin did about how it's going to be on the top 10 list of the year. So that's really pretty great. Yeah. So that being said, I thought the set designs and costumes are like exquisite in this film. They are really, really well done. I especially liked the set design of the secret passageways and the way they're shot with. That's probably going into a little bit too much detail right now, but like just the way they're shot, the way the film is shot in general, except for maybe like 1 or 2 gripes, or not necessarily gripes, but questions. I really liked the way it was shot. I thought it was a really good-looking film. And you're right, Justin. It's acted so well, and I also think besides those 3, you also have to kind of add Nicholas Hoult in there, because I think Nicholas Holt's doing a really good job in this film, but he's just overshadowed by these other 3 women that are just killing it in this film. Ultimately, I think maybe some of the choices that you're talking about, the lens choices and stuff, kind of pull me out of it, because they are so unique. And I do agree with you that it's fascinating that he would choose them, but sometimes I feel like it pulls me out of the film because I realize that it's a lens shot and it's different from everything else. So we can talk about that further later on in the show. But ultimately, I really enjoyed this movie. It left me kind of unsettled and not sure how to feel. And I think that that's a really great thing. That's kind of what I look for. It's a film that is going to make me think about it the further I get away with it. I'm actually looking forward to a second viewing, I think. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, just you mentioned like the set design. I do want to mention that I saw the film at the Alamo Drafthouse, and they always have like the pre-roll before the films of different things. Well, they had a pre-roll that was all about the house that this movie was mostly shot in, called the Hatfield House. It's in England somewhere. But they actually had a montage of all the films that have been shot in this house, and it is crazy the amount of films that have used this house. I think the first Tim Burton Batman has like scenes in this house, I think, for Batman's like mansion or Bruce Wayne's mansion. But anyways,
cool. Interesting.
Fun fact. So a lot of it's not even set design. It's just, I mean, I'm sure they decorate like the rooms, but like
It's
that's just
a
a house.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Mike. So what did you think of The Favorite?
Yeah, so, like you, I have not seen any of Yorgos Lanthimos' other films, so I pretty much had no expectations for this movie, other than word of mouth, and Justin was looking forward to it. So yeah, this guy is kind of a blind spot for me. I only really knew, the vibe or what to expect from the trailer, and even then, I thought the trailer was a little vague, and so I ended up enjoying it quite a bit, though. Sidebar, I watched this the same day I watched Roma, so that was like a very full day. But yeah, I think this movie is just so fun. Like you guys said, Olivia Colman is awesome here. Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone are both equally great. But like Chris, I think maybe my favorite part of the movie might be Nicholas Hoult. And as the nobleman with the best wigs.
Yes. His wigs.
His
Or
wigs were
maybe
wonderful.
it was just one, but man,
And his general dickishness was just so funny. I really enjoy how everything in this film unfolds. There were times where I liked one character more than another, and then it would swap. And I would like another character more once new information was gathered, or if the character you liked in the first place goes too far. So ultimately, I was hooked start to finish. I will say, as much as I enjoy this film, I'm not a fan of some of the little flourishes in the shooting style. Kind of like Chris was saying. I don't like fisheye shots. I can't think of anything less cinematic, less visually pleasing, and more distracting than a fisheye shot. But on the other hand, in that same logic, I enjoyed many of the other little quirks that he goes for, So ultimately, I'm able to really let that kind of stuff go because I enjoy this film quite a bit, and I will definitely be checking out some of his other films going forward because this movie feels very unique. I think you were right. It feels a lot like Wes Anderson. If Wes Anderson went full dark, or something like that, like just was completely nihilistic. But anyway, that's my overall thoughts. So, yeah.
Okay, so I think at this point, I kind of want to talk about the cinematography and visual style since we've all kind of talked about it, but we do have a question about that from Facebook. So I'm going to read that if that's cool with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this question comes from Facebook. It's from Nicole Kopalski, who, fun fact, is actually my new fiance. So thank you for the question.
Yeah.
New fiance.
Does that feel weird to say out loud?
Yeah.
My new fiance?
It's so weird. We both talked about how weird it was and had to say it a couple times. I'm still not used to it, but
yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get married just so I don't have to say fiance anymore, actually.
Yeah.
Well, then you say wife, which is probably even stranger.
Yeah, it's just
I don't know. I think fiance would sound weirder than wife.
It does. It feels weirder to say than wife.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, so she says, I'm definitely obsessed with this director and how he manages to make you feel uncomfortable with unconventional shots. What is your opinion on his style? I love it, she says in parentheses. And do you ever find yourself feeling really uncomfortable because of it? I guess I can take that first. Unless one of you guys want to answer first?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, so like Nicole, I also love his style. It's, like I said before, it's one of the things that I really loved about Killing of a Sacred Deer. And he kind of takes it to another level in this film because Killing of a Sacred Deer, what it did a lot was sort of wide lenses and would not place the characters in the frame in like a classically pleasing sense, like in terms of composition, right? Like he wouldn't necessarily follow like the rule of thirds or anything like that. Like his characters always seem to have like an uncomfortable amount of headroom. Like they usually have a lot more headroom than you would expect from like a classically well composed frame.
Right.
Real quick, explain what rule of thirds means real quick.
Yeah, so rule of thirds is kind of a compositional, I guess, idea, and it goes across to like photography, cinematography, painting. But if you basically drew a grid, was like 2 lines horizontally and 2 lines vertically, like each one dividing like the picture into perfect thirds, like the intersections of the grid, the corners where they meet, that would be like the most ideal places to like put your character or your subject of interest, like whatever if you're filming an object or whatever, it's basically so like they're not always like dead center, or they're not too far to the right or too far to the left. It's just kind of like a guide in a sense, and basically considered like the right way to shoot stuff and make like a pleasing composition, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of Yorgos Lanthimos, that is, shirks a lot of that with his cinematography, and he does take it to another level in this film with like some of his choices of wide angle lenses, and some of them, as you guys have said, are really wide, like fisheye. I think all of that is designed to make you feel on edge and uncomfortable and never really settle in visually, right? Like you can't really just watch the film without noticing those things. So I know what you mean, Chris, when you're like, oh, it takes you out of the film. It makes you realize that like you're watching a shot or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know that that's not the intention.
Yeah, and that could be as well. It's just
what I would say is there are certain things you can do to make people uncomfortable that are very effective and not distracting. Like, for example, most characters in most shots in this film are filmed from below.
Yeah.
And usually that would come across as making the characters seem more powerful. But in this, to me, it makes them feel like more isolated, because you're also seeing like a lot of ceiling shots. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I think in most scenes you can see the roof of the building they're in, or like the room they're in.
Yeah, and the rooms are usually like have like high ceilings too.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of vastness behind them and above them.
Right. And I think it's supposed to make them feel more isolated. And also the viewer uncomfortable. That's the kind of stuff that works. I also like a lot of the hallway shots where characters will start moving and the camera moves with them. A lot of candlelit shots were quite beautiful, I think. Like it seems like it's genuinely lit by candles in a lot of scenes.
Kind of what I was talking about.
Natural light.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they used any lights on like any of the interior stuff, like maybe some of the outside night stuff.
Right, like when they're walking through the secret passageways, that's kind of what I was talking about before, but like they'll be lit by just this candle, and it's really beautiful to see. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I guess you guys are not into some of the very fisheye shots that are like...
Yeah, I don't even mind odd composition, but fisheye, that's where I draw the line. It looks like a bad 90s music video. That's how I associate fisheye with. It's just like a cheap like effect.
And I get that. Like, I think it makes sense. Even if it's not very cinematically pleasing, I admire the balls of shooting that way in this film, right? Like, who would do that?
Yeah, agreed there. Yeah, takes balls, that's for sure. But that said, that is literally probably my biggest complaint about the film.
Yeah, and so to finish answering Nicole's question, I mean, you guys kind of said your opinion on his style, but she also asked, do you ever find yourself feeling really uncomfortable because of the style?
Yeah, definitely. I think there is a certain level of uncomfortable. I don't think there's very much about this film that makes me feel comfortable. You know, like the whole thing makes me feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yes, so it's the whole movie's engaged or is made specifically to make you feel uncomfortable, and that's part of the style, I believe. How about you, Mike?
I would say like the camera angles, not so much. I think the overall tone of the script and the camera angles kind of contribute to that, obviously. But I would say some moments are uncomfortable in the same way that like David Lynch movies are uncomfortable. Specifically the third act. Beyond the third act, though, I don't know that uncomfortable is how I would describe the movie. More just not uncomfortable, just not comfortable. Like the same way whenever you're first watching a Wes Anderson movie for the first time. Obviously, that's not as dark, right? But like I remember when I first watched Rushmore, you just kind of have to acclimate to the tone, right? It's a very intentional tone. And it's a very intentional style, right? And so you kind of have to adapt, and that becomes their style. I would be interested to watch more of his movies to see if they all kind of feel like this, or if The Favourite is more accessible or less accessible than his other ones, you know?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what you would think about that.
Yeah, me too. I'll probably let you know soon. I think the first one on my radar might be Dogtooth, just because I remember when that movie first came out, it escaped me that year, and I wanted to see it, and I'd heard good things, and then I just kind of forgot about it, and then past few years, he's been making a huge like presence in the film world with like The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer, and now this, so he's a big deal now.
All right. Does anybody have anything else to talk about before we move into spoilers?
No, I think this is a good time to do that.
Me too. I think it's safe to say we all recommend this film.
Yeah. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely best of the year material, most likely.
Yeah, I think Oscars will abound, at least in terms of nominations. I think we all have some acting nominations. I would say script.
Oh my God. If Olivia Colman does not get Best Supporting Actress...
Yeah, she's really good in this.
It's insane.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So on to spoilers.
Yeah, let's do it.
No, I guess Rosebud is just a piece in a jigsaw puzzle.
I'll tell you what. Give me one cigarettes you got up there. I'll tell you all about it.
And here we go.
So, I liked how the extravagant way these nobles are living is portrayed in this film. Like, first you have Queen Anne trying to spend this, like, really huge expense to build Lady Sarah a big estate. And then you have, like, these balls and these dances with, like, modern dance moves at a party. And it kind of, like, highlights the silliness of this whole, like, affair, you know? Like we mentioned earlier, the really over-the-top wigs, you know?
I really loved that whole dance sequence and dance off. I thought that was, like, super funny.
Yeah, and it just kind of like highlights the like lunacy of the decadence that they're living in, right? And there's also that scene where the rich people are literally throwing fruit at a naked guy while there are people starving in the country.
Yeah.
So like these people are ridiculous. And I really enjoyed how like it doesn't outright state that. It just gives you enough in the movie to come to that assumption or to come to that conclusion, I guess.
Also, not to forget the duck racing scene.
Oh yeah, and the duck racing, exactly. Yeah,
It's shot in a similar way to the guy being hit with fruit. Like I think it's one of the few times in the film where we go into like kind of this ridiculous slow motion, and like just these shots of the extravagance, really. And what's interesting to me, and maybe this is what you mean by saying you like the way that it's portrayed, but like it's calling it out in a sense, but it's also making it funny usually.
Right. It's like making a cartoon out of something that like is still going on in modern times and is very much not funny.
Yeah.
But this has like the satire element involved or like the political cartoon element of it, right? Like these people are buffoons. Their wigs are ridiculous. Their dance moves are ridiculous.
Yeah. In some ways it turns into like a comedy of manners at points.
Yeah, exactly. It's just reveling in like the ridiculousness of high society.
Yeah, I definitely love that about it too. And I think that's one of those things, especially going back and watching the film again, is like kind of noticing those small nuances that they put into showing that extravagance. I think more of that will like come across as funny than like it will on initial viewing.
Yeah, if you thought There Will Be Blood only improved with repeated viewings in the comedy, I can only imagine this movie getting much funnier by that logic.
Yeah
for sure.
So not being much of a history buff myself, I was not very familiar with any of these people, and man, Queen Anne is a very tragic person. Like she had 17 stillborns. Is that what it was?
Yeah, at least in the movie.
Yeah.
Is that historically accurate?
I know she had a lot. I kind of did some light Googling after this. Apparently this movie is a lot based on like the memoirs of Lady Sarah, from what I understand. So I don't think they put any like significant research into making this a historically accurate movie.
Yeah,
but I also think that it's loosely based in history enough and like at least rumors of the time, you know, to where it doesn't really matter. But ultimately, the stillborns thing, even if it wasn't really 17 in real life, like that's just a crazy amount, and that would mess up any human being mentally, right? Like that amount of devastation.
Well, her being a queen, she has to keep going, right?
Yeah, she needs an heir. What are you going to do? Not have an heir?
And then she's got a bunny for each time, I guess, that it's happened. And yeah, it's just
bizarre. Yeah.
Pretty awful.
Yeah, and I guess it's true that in real life, at least according to the memoirs, that she was also a lesbian with Lady Sarah. To my understanding, that is also true. Or supposedly true, if you believe the memoirs.
Yeah, well, makes sense.
A lot of it is more than I thought. It was based on like a true story. Like I thought it was kind of a ridiculous tale, like loosely based. But I think
it certainly feels that way.
Yeah,
see,
it does.
I didn't think it felt ridiculous at all. Like I didn't know what this movie was really about, right? Like I was just kind of watching it all unfold. And the moment Emma Stone is in the library and you start to realize the dynamic that's really going on there, that felt so true, right? That felt so probably realistic. You know what I mean? Like that felt like something that would probably happen. I mean, that's the exact scenario you hear about in like lots of stories about royalty, right? They have people who warm their beds for them and they have concubines and stuff. So like, why wouldn't a queen? It just makes complete sense.
Yeah, it does. And there's a bit of a grotesqueness to this movie. Not like in a sense that things are like gross, but like I think it comes to like what we were talking about, like the guy being hit by fruit, but even like, she's got like the rotting leg the whole time. And there's a bit of like an unspoken grotesqueness to like her relationship with everybody. Cause when like Emma Stone's doing stuff to her, like she's always having to like rub her leg and like they're putting raw meat on it. Were you guys disturbed by that, or do you think the movie kind of let it be under the surface enough to where it's not that big of a deal, or it's not as grotesque as it could have been, I guess?
I think it amps up as the movie goes, and I think by the end, like I mentioned earlier, we go full on Lynch, like Lynchian, and I'm talking about David Lynch for anyone who doesn't understand, but I don't know that I got that vibe the whole time. Like I think it's supposed to make you like, this is very much about like decadence and rot and sexual desire. Like a lot of those things kind of like mixed together just make for like uncomfortable vibes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by the end, it's not so much like grotesque and like grossness, like you were saying, but the vibe it gives you is definitely, I think, meant to leave you uncomfortable. Like the last scene with the bunny, and we're in spoilers, I might as well just mention it. Like with Emma Stone, lying in the bed she made in. And basically, it's not necessarily an unhappy ending, but there's a certain ugliness there,
Let's kind of take that a little bit. I like that last scene, and I think that it's enigmatic enough that I kind of want to talk a little bit more. So in that last scene, we see her squishing the bunny, and then she goes and it's not shown explicitly, but it is implied heavily that she is sexually pleasuring the Queen Anne. So why do you suppose that she's squishing the bunny? That would be my first question.
So for me, I mean, the bunnies / rabbits, they represent the miscarriages.
The tragedies.
Yeah, so they're a bit of this sort of like ugly reminder of like what you've done, I guess. Like this thing that's always there in the room as a reminder, so you can't really like forget these things. And to me, it was like she's squishing the rabbit. And this also kind of goes into like the rabbits kind of like fading on and transposing themselves onto the final shot. But like squishing the rabbit was almost like she's in a place where like she's kind of got everything she wants and seems like she's going to be in a place where she's going to kind of get away with it and like not, or at least like not have to deal with any of the negative effects of what she's done. And I think that's like her feeling like she's conquered any sort of residual like negative things that are gonna like stick around and be there. Okay. Does that make sense?
And that's interesting. Yeah. And then immediately she's almost the bunny being squished after that. Is that kind of how we would look at that? The Queen's squishing her? Yeah, so like the whole movie, Emma Stone is fighting for herself. She is fighting to get status in the world. Once you have status, you can't be walked on or walked all over anymore, right? So she sets out to hire her position, to gain favor. As soon as she marries a nobleman, she has some scene, I think, where she's like, I'm safe now.
I'm finally safe, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically what she's talking about is like for the first time in her life, she's able to not, worry that like the noble people are going to walk all over her like they're doing to every other poor person in the movie, right? But that's all she's fighting for. Lady Sarah, Rachel Weisz, love her or hate her, she says to Emma Stone, we're playing very different games. And you may not fully realize that at first, but Rachel Weisz isn't just sleeping with the queen to be the favorite. She's incepting ideas into her head, She's literally seducing her and she's got political motivations involved, and she's teaming up with her husband, and she's got a whole conspiracy. Emma Stone just doesn't want to be treated badly. And when she achieves that goal, that very simple goal, she doesn't have anywhere to put that ugliness that she's used, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's bored. She's angry. And the queen will put her back in her place, I guess,
Yeah, I really like that last shot, I think, as the different faces go along, and then you have the bunnies come up with, reminding you of all the tragedies. And I think there's really a lot to read into that scene, and just to kind of think about, and it kind of really puts a exclamation mark on the movie.
Well, and it's doing that right as like everyone's at their peak ugliness, right? Or at least the queen and Emma Stone's character, right?
Yeah,
the queen is taking advantage of Emma Stone. Emma Stone is hurting animals after she just got done ruthlessly getting Rachel Weisz kicked out of the country, So at the end, I guess, if the bunnies represent the tragedy, and we're seeing Emma Stone, and we're seeing the queen, and we're seeing the bunnies, maybe we're seeing, what tragedy does to people,
Yeah, and you kind of see the world and the environment that they're going to have to live in, right? Like it's all like they're going to be surrounded and constantly reminded. At least Emma Stone is, and the queen already has been for a while, but like they're going to be constantly reminded of all of the experiences they've had that have been negative. That like it's not just like sunshine and roses essentially. Now that Emma Stone has got everything that she needs. And the queen's gotten rid of Rachel Weisz, and
she's just going to be
fully settled on Emma Stone.
Right. She's just going to be walked all over by someone she's being agreed to be walked all over by, right? Like, is she safe from all the stuff she didn't want? Is she better off here than sweeping the floors?
Safe from everybody but one person.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and Chris, you said that she's sexually pleasuring the queen at the end, and I don't know that I got that. I thought she was just having to
I definitely
rub her
got that.
leg.
Well, really? I thought the way I take it is anytime, like, rub my leg is cute, is like code for, sexually pleasure me.
Because that's what she was happens. Rubbing her legs earlier, the first time.
And then she's like, yeah.
Well, the first thing she does is rub her legs, and then it kind of goes into it. I took it as like Olivia Colman kind of knows what Emma Stone is about fully and has fully figured out like her motivations and how she didn't really care about her. So I thought she was taking her like back a peg of like, yeah, you're just going to rub my legs, like my gross leg that is probably rotting and killing me.
Yeah, that I think is like what she says, but the subtext is, be my sex person.
Okay. I'm not sure it makes much of a difference either way. I think it's just slightly different readings of it.
Right. Like basically she's agreed to like, she's avoided like sexual assault by people she doesn't want, but now she's at the beck and call for someone to just use her whenever she wants.
Yeah, and it's kind of the way she grabs her hair is aggressive, and it may be a little bit of both, but I think that
there's not a lot of passion or affection there at the end.
Yeah, it's similar to the just got married hand job.
Oh yeah, which was funny, just because like you see her in such deep thought while he's in the background like getting a hand job.
Yeah,
and she's like not even focused on it. She's just like off in her own head, being like, "Am I safe now? Now I'm more nervous than ever." Like, is that the part where she's like really scared that Rachel Weisz could come back at any time?
Yeah. That's
it. Yes.
Yeah. So funny.
Yeah. Another thing I thought was funny, just a minor thing, the guy who's like constantly carrying around his duck. And he's like, why? Or Nicholas Hoult asked him, like, why'd you bring the duck in here? And he's like, well, it's a race-winning duck. Like, this is a prize-winning duck. People are going to steal it. And like every time you see that guy, like, he's pretty much carrying that duck like most of the time. It's funny.
I like how Nicholas Holt's character was such a dick, but like the whole time Like, his goals aren't that bad. It's like, stop the war.
Yeah, he's a real big dick, but he's almost not... Compared to everything else that's going on, I don't feel like he's...
Yeah, he's like the best person in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's fighting for not taxing the people.
Yeah, and ending the war.
Yeah.
But like, he's such
dick.
a jerk to all our main characters, but the thing is, we like our main characters, even though if you take a step back, you're like, oh, they're all terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's the view that you're in, right? And it kind of goes with what you're saying, like the over the topness of the like lavish lifestyles that they lead. Like, you're kind of in that world and looking at the world through that lens. And so in that, like, he seems like the most asshole-ish, dickish person in the movie, even though he's got the most noble causes. Like, aren't quite aware of that, at least in terms of tone.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Exactly. Do you think that Rachel Weisz's character ever cared about the Queen or her husband? Where do you think her real loyalties lie?
I thought that she was actually interested in the Queen and liked the Queen.
They were childhood
for a while.
friends, so I have no doubt that there's some affection there for sure.
Yeah. I think it's up until the point where she's like, we're playing two different games. Like, that line is what made me kind of question that. But up until that point, I thought yes. I thought she really did care for her because of scenes where she's like, she says something about, like, you know, someone in love with you is going to tell you the truth, basically. And she tells her, like, things she doesn't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought there was a moment where I saw genuine hurt. Maybe it was the moment where she finds Emma Stone in bed with the Queen.
Yeah, I love that scene.
That's a really great scene, and Emma Stone's never looked scarier as she opens her eyes and the candlelight reflecting off her face.
Emma Stone has the best, most cinematic eyes
of
anyone working today.
You guys need to watch Maniac. She is really good in Maniac.
You need to watch Maniac.
I already did.
No, okay,
sir.
well then good.
But yes, and I think I saw genuine hurt, and no matter how much she's manipulating the Queen, I think that there is, whether it's pride or, you know, stuff based on yourself, you know, ego, seeing the Queen with somebody else hurt a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I have no doubt she was hurt there, and I have no doubt she cares about the Queen to some degree, but it seems like her and her husband had, like, their own loyalties in mind, because he was the leader of the army, and she's running the country and promoting the war further to further their interests for their marriage. And then also it comes to light later that while the war was going on, Lady Sarah was stealing money.
Yeah, I never understood if that was actually true or if that was an Emma Stone device.
We are to believe it was, because she seemed to know exactly what was happening as soon as those people showed up on horses.
Yeah, but I thought that was just her knowing that Emma Stone has, like, won.
Yeah, it could go either way.
The Queen's trust. And
it could go either way, but I don't see how Emma Stone could have faked the books.
I actually think the way I read it was Lady Sarah, Rachel Weisz's character, and her husband. I feel like that was a marriage of
Well, it's definitely a political marriage for sure.
Yeah, political marriage, and there was ambition was the only thing that they had in common.
But were they more loyal to that ambition than anything else? And I think the answer is yes, personally.
Well, repeat viewing, I think, is in order.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It'll be interesting to see what happens next time.
Yeah, so that does it for me.
Yeah, that is it for me, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our review of The Favourite. It's great. It's really good. Can't wait to watch it again.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, let's move on to our review of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Cue the auto-tune music in the trailer.
No kidding. So much auto-tune music.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Miles Morales. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. At least that's what I thought.
You ever hear of the Super Collider? You're gonna love this.
Dimension opening now.
You're like me.
That's impossible.
Okay, so just like before with The Favourite, we're going to have a non-spoiler section and a spoiler alert before we move into spoilers, so you can keep listening if you haven't seen the movie, at least until the spoiler alert.
So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. Starring Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, and Haley Steinfeld. The IMDb synopsis says, Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his reality and crosses paths with his counterparts from other dimensions to stop a threat to all reality. Yep, that makes the movie sound less good than it is, in my opinion.
I've seen the movie, and that synopsis confuses me a little bit.
I think if you were to try to pitch this movie to anybody, to say, hey, there's this new movie, this is what it's about, it would sound ridiculous and would not sound good.
Yeah, and let me just hop off of that real quick into my expectations for the movie, because this is a film that was not on my radar at all, right? Like, I thought this was going to be like a Fathom Events or special screenings or VOD type situation.
Right, like so there's like Batman animated movies that were like straight to DVD.
Yeah, yeah, it looked like a probably a really, decently made budgeted cartoon, but nah, man, this movie is like a legit release, and that surprised me.
It's a real movie.
Yeah, it's a real movie. So anyway, I kept hearing more and more word of mouth. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I basically insisted that we watch it for the show.
I do. I was coming from the same place as you, and not being very interested in the film for the same reasons that you are, or you were not, I should say.
I insisted.
Yeah, I did. I didn't necessarily want to do it, but you've talked me into it.
Well, I mean, we needed to see what the buzz was all about, man.
That's true.
Yeah. So if you haven't picked up already, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It's up there with Spider-Man 2 in my eyes as like the best Spider-Man movie. It's better than most Marvel MCU movies. And that's coming from a guy who likes most of those movies pretty well. I feel like I'm talking a lot about Spider-Man lately on this show.
Yes.
Like a few episodes ago, I raved about how good the Spider-Man PS4 game was, and like here I am again. But you know what? That said, it's been a really good year for Spider-Man. Yeah. Apparently,
he did some good stuff in Infinity War.
Yeah, and that's the least good Spider-Man thing that I've seen this year, and I like that movie too.
Well, you saw Venom.
Well,
was
I mean,
Venom
Spider-Man
kind of
was
a Spider-Man thing,
but
okay.
Yeah, well, that's the worst Spider-Man thing I've seen all year then. But anyway, this film is very clever. It's very savvy and self-aware. Phil Lord helped write it, which probably contributed to that quite a bit. I think maybe there's a bit too much of that, like self-referential meta humor in there. But it's not like on the level of like Lego Movie or anything like that. So you're still able to take it seriously when you need to. And there are emotional stakes to the characters, and I cared about them. And that was very refreshing. Miles Morales seems like a cool Spider-Man, but you know what? Sidebar, real quick. I don't know very many spiders that can turn invisible and shoot electricity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You need to get out more often, man.
I mean, they might as well give him the ability to like shoot ice or something. But anyway, yeah, certainly a fun movie, and it scratches the cartoon adventure vibe that Incredibles 2 failed to scratch for me this year. All right, what about you, Chris?
So, approaching this movie, I was very different than you were. I had seen some of the trailers and was intrigued by the animation and the way that it looked, and I thought that at best it would be a fun movie. So, maybe not that far different from you, but I thought it was going to be a fun movie, and it looked interesting, especially the animation. I thought it would be like a good, fun distraction movie, you know, one that you could play in the background that it wouldn't necessarily elevate a genre like maybe it did. Right? I think this movie is amazingly animated. I think it does new things for animation that is just spectacular. And we can talk about that more later. I think this movie is funny and touching. It's a funny and touching Spider-Man movie. And you're right, it's not that far off from Spider-Man 2 or even Spider-Man Homecoming, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I think it's in the top 3 of Spider-Man movies of all time.
I still think the PS4 Spider-Man's a little better, but it's real close.
Yeah, I mean, and I haven't seen that one or played it. But the one thing we have to do is we had to go through a lot of bad Spider-Man movies in order to get this Spider-Man movie, right? Because it becomes self-referential, and we have to know a mythos already, I think, a little bit in order to understand some of the jokes in this movie. Anyways, the animation alone in this movie, like I said, it makes it worth it. It's the refreshing comic book style that it has, gives a new take on what a superhero movie could and possibly should be. And it's just, yeah, I really like this movie a lot. And I think it's far and above better than any animated film that I've seen this year. And yeah, it's really great, and especially for the animation style. So those are my thoughts, and we'll get into more of it later. But for now, Justin, what are your thoughts?
So, like Mike, I wasn't very interested in the movie. And unlike Chris, I did see the trailers and still thought the film didn't look that good. Like, I thought it was, I thought it might just be okay at best. Like, it really didn't intrigue me.
Sort of impressed by the animation style?
No, not really. I don't remember thinking one way or another about it in the trailer. I do actually have some thoughts on the animation now that I've seen like the full film and watched it for, an hour and 40 minutes or however long the movie is.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was surprised when I started hearing that it had all these great reviews, but even then I was still reluctantly going to see it, right? Like we said earlier, Mike, you kind of said we had to go see it and have talked me into it.
I insisted.
Yeah. And so I'm going into the film with like a negative attitude in a sense, not like fully negative, of course, but a little bit.
I like to think
negative.
that you were sighing real loud and had your arms crossed the whole time, like waiting for it to start.
Yeah.
So everyone around you just knew you were in like a defensive position.
Yeah. Like when the movie studio logos popped up, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Out loud in the movie theater. Not true. That's yeah.
How much more do we have to go?
Yeah.
Is this almost over yet?
But anyways, I was actually very, very pleasantly surprised by the movie. I liked it a lot. I think it's got a lot of great characters, including all of like the smaller extra Spider-Man characters who come in from like other realities. I thought they had like their own like unique and interesting personalities, and they were like developed as characters enough to like feel like complete.
Yeah, and each has a different animation style.
Yeah. I think one of you guys might have said this, but I just doubled down. Like, the film is really funny to me. Like, I really enjoyed most of the humor in it. And I think the action sequences and the bad guys in the film are, at least slightly better than any of the other Spider-Man movies that I've seen. And I don't think that's a high bar, because that's always been my issue with the Spider-Man movies, is that their bad guys generally suck. And the action sequences aren't particularly interesting, because usually they're fighting the bad guys who aren't interesting. But also,
I would say you should watch Spider-Man Homecoming real quick.
Sure. I was about to say that the two Spider-Man movies that I haven't seen are Homecoming, and I never saw the second Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which I guess is just called The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, you're not missing anything there.
Yeah, I don't think I am. I've heard Homecoming is good. But so I haven't seen those two, but I've seen all the other ones, and I'm going to say that this Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is far and away like the best Spider-Man movie that I've seen, and I'm very much including Spider-Man 2, because while everyone says it's the good one and a lot of people think it's the best one, I don't know that that's true. I have my doubts about that, because I did not like that movie at all when I saw it in theaters. I thought it was exceptionally bad, but I kind of thought that about every Spider-Man movie, so I don't know. Maybe it's just Spider-Man.
I would say watch it again.
Maybe.
If you haven't seen it since theaters, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I'm hesitant because like it came out at a time where I was more easily impressed by the superhero genre.
Yeah, but maybe the things that are impressive about Spider-Man 2 didn't impress you at the time, but they might now.
It's always true. It's possible. I'll give it a good maybe.
Watch Homecoming instead. That's
give
what
it the old college maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll for sure watch Homecoming. That's definitely. But anyways, so to go to the animation, I personally wasn't wild about the animation, even though I adjusted to it after a while. For the first 30 minutes of the movie, I found it kind of distracting, where I found myself paying more attention to the animation and the lines and the things going on in the screen than the actual story or the people in the screen and what they were doing. And I don't know if that makes sense. So I found it distracting.
That makes good sense. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Oh, I was gonna say I had a similar reaction. I like 95% of the animation, but it also has this the characters when they move have this flip book kind of look to them, where it looks like sometimes pages are getting skipped or frames.
I believe this animation, from what I've read, it's 12 frames a second.
Yeah,
which is standard for.
It's very distracting sometimes. I acclimated to it after about 30 or 40 minutes, but man, at the very beginning of the movie, I was like, I really don't like the way the characters move. It feels weird and distracting at times.
once I got used to it, it wasn't an issue. And I think that the style is so kind of new and fresh that it does take a little bit of time to adjust, because it took me, I actually thought, am I in a 3D movie on accident? Like in 3D screening?
I had that thought a few times too.
Yeah, there's like some background images that are blurry, as if they're supposed to be 3D, but they're not.
They're like red and blue blurred, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's weird.
Like 3D is.
It's called off-printing, I believe. So like as if they accidentally printed outside of the lines of the like in a comic book, that'll happen where they accidentally print out outside of the lines of the drawn image.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I dug it by the end.
Yeah, by the end I was used to it and it didn't bother me that much. So it might not even bother me like on a repeat viewing, you know. So that's a pretty minor complaint. My other minor complaint, I think, is that I thought the final action sequence felt about 5 minutes too long. Like there was a certain point in that action sequence that I was like, we still have more fighting to do. I thought I was hoping we were about to be over and on with it, which is a really, really minor complaint, because overall I really enjoyed the movie and just generally speaking just had a really good time with it, and I think it's good.
I agree. And first of all, I want to commend this movie for its balancing act. This movie has so much going on. It's so dense, and a lot of individual heroes that need to feel like different next to one another all do. Like the detail and animation, they all look different. Story arcs, they all get something to do, even like the most ridiculous Spider-Man doesn't feel underused. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or overused,
it's just,
in my opinion.
It's just a very carefully, like, same thing I thought whenever we were watching Infinity War earlier this year. Like, even if you don't like the movie, just to watch it and admire it from like a structural standpoint, the fact that it's so busy and so much is going on, but it still works as well as it does and flows like it does, is pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is awesome, the way that they're able to balance all that, and not lose anything from the Miles Morales story either, you know?
Yeah, it still feels like his story by the end of it.
Right, yeah. And the way they dish out exposition is done so well, and it kind of just catches you up really quick, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's almost done like a joke, too.
Yeah.
Which makes it feel less
you're
like
excited.
exposition.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think there was anybody that I was less excited to see die except for Spider-Man's dad again, or not his Spider-Man's uncle, right? Because I've seen it so many times in every single Spider-Man movie. That and Batman's parents, you know, we see them die all the time. But like every time they're like, let me tell you my story. And then they would flash back and tell you all about it. And you're like, that's funny. And it's great. And it's fun. And I was excited when the next one popped up, you know, let's do this again. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Within this movie, they managed to give you like 3 different origin stories, or I guess like 6 origin stories, but 3 of them are kind of like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
but
told
like
at the same time.
I mean, we get the first ever Spider-Woman, who thankfully is also, sidebar, she's also called Spider-Gwen because her name is Gwen Stacy in other circles. And I was really annoyed by that, because why would you call yourself Spider-Gwen? That'd be like me calling myself Spider-Mike, right? Like that would just be stupid.
Well, that's what gives away your identity.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really glad in the movie she was like, I'm Spider-Woman. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I wasn't going to be able to let that go.
The movie's ruined.
It would have been a significant problem if she introduced herself as Spider-Gwen. Anyway.
Yeah, the movie also kind of, in some ways, it apologizes for some of like the bad Spider-Man movies that exist, but it also makes them all exist at the same time as this movie, right? Like with
right, yeah,
kind
of like,
that some
are
of
they
them
canon or are they not canon? Does it matter?
Yeah, when some of them are just kind of like alternate universes.
I like how Chris Pine was the young, cool, blonde Spider-Man.
Yes.
On that same sort of note, I realized watching this movie that Nick Cage and Ron Swanson / Nick Offerman can sound a whole lot alike, because I was convinced that Spider-Man Noir one was Nick Offerman.
Favorite.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Nick Offerman is killing it in this role. And later on I looked it up and it was Nick Cage. And I was really proud of myself for figuring it out. Do you guys ever do that with like animated movies? And you're like, I know that voice. I'm going to figure it out and not look it up. And then you like pat yourself on the back when you get it.
Yep.
Not this time. Do we want to move into spoilers or?
Before we move into spoilers, I just want to say one thing that I think makes this movie work better than any other Spider-Man movie, except for maybe Spider-Man 2, is the focus on character. Like, in so many Marvel movies, the characters are charming enough, but we don't get to spend any time hanging out with them. We don't get to spend any time with their, like, family lives. We don't get any of that stuff. So we're never really worried about anyone, you know?
Right.
We're not invested with anyone's arc. We just want them to get to the cool stuff and then in the movie and see how the connective tissue with the other MCU movies works. But with this one, and a lot like Spider-Man 2, it's really invested in showing you how hard it is to be Spider-Man, how lonely it can be, how you can't do it alone, but oftentimes you need to.
Right, the characters, when they do realize that there's another Spider-Man or Spider-Person or Spider-Being, whatever they are, they almost seem relieved. Oh, there's another one of me. You know, we can share this burden.
Yeah.
You know, like
you're like me.
Yeah, that kind of really nails it.
I agree. Like, so I really enjoyed how it explores the theme of loneliness. To me, that makes the best Spider-Man movies.
Right? Yeah, I agree. I really cared for them all, and
oh man, especially Peter B. Parker.
Yeah, he's the most sympathetic one, I think. But you know, they all kind of make me
Jake
feel
Johnson's
sad for them
so charming
in some ways.
as Peter B. Parker.
He is. His voice I nailed. I did know it was him.
yeah, he's pretty distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are we ready for spoilers?
I am.
Okay, let's do it.
I am.
No, I guess Rosebud is just a piece in a jigsaw puzzle.
I'll tell you what, give me one cigarette you got up there. I'll tell you all about it. And here we go.
Okay, now that we're in spoilers, let me just say, my biggest complaint about the movie, it's a 1-2 punch here. I do not like this version of Aunt May.
Yeah.
This is like Peter Parker's version of Alfred Pennyworth or something. And his Batcave shed. That did not feel like Spider-Man to me. That felt like Batman. But then again, I don't read the comics really very often, so like someone who reads those could probably like say I'm stupid right now for saying Spider-Man shouldn't have like a spider cave with vehicles and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, I guess the way I feel about it is there is a spider pig. And so like they're in an infinite...
but that's from an alternate universe where there's anthropomorphized animals. This is from our universe where Peter Parker's
this is
not
a different
billionaire.
universe. This is not our universe. It's PDNY is what is on the side of the cop cars and stuff because it can't be NY. This is in an alternate universe,
Okay.
I think.
Well, I still don't recall Peter Parker being a billionaire.
Well, in an infinite amount of universes, there are an infinite amount of possibilities.
Yeah, but
So
this is the
that's how
universe
it
we
doesn't
were
bother
in
me.
where they had a secret Batcave
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I
under
mean, I
his
guess
house.
It's also, did you guys see the From Dusk Till Dawn poster? That
Yeah.
was like the kind of Shaun of
Yeah.
the Dead, but from Dusk Till Dawn instead of Dawn of the Dead. That was cool.
Yeah.
So that movie exists in that world, which I wish existed in our world. I'd watch it.
Yeah. I'll watch
I'm
it,
just
yeah.
saying, it didn't feel very Spider-Man-y.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but it didn't necessarily bother me.
Yeah, same. It didn't bother me. I kind of like established how long this previous Spider-Man had been around.
Mm-hmm.
I guess whenever he had died and they revealed like the Peter Parker, like pictures of the funerals and stuff, like he was still relatively young, but I kind of just got the sense that he'd been doing it for a while and was like super established. And so, I don't know, I didn't think about it that much, but I think if I do think about it, now that you've pointed it out, you're probably right that it's a little out of place.
That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm justified.
Well, in that sense, I want to talk about what you were saying earlier, that this Spider-Man can turn invisible and shoot electricity.
Yeah.
And
he might as well just be an X-Man.
Sure. And it does take the Spider-Man character to a different place, but also the spider that he's bitten by is a robotic engineered spider.
Yeah.
That's where I took those powers coming from as opposed to the traditional Spider-Man powers.
And it was phasing in and out. It felt like that spider was from another dimension as well. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah,
But
like
that's
maybe
what
they
I
had
felt.
tested the interdimensional thingy like once before, because like
Yeah,
the uncle knew where the place was, and clearly the
Right.
uncle is I can't remember the villain's name, but he's that villain.
Yeah,
Strider or something.
Yeah, but that's what it explained that to me, and so I was okay with that.
Sure, but all I'm saying is, keep it keep it close to the spider stuff. Don't start giving him other powers, because then he might as well just like lose the gimmick, you know?
Right. Well, so we mentioned the uncle too. Do you guys want to talk about that twist? Because that is one part of the movie for me that I wasn't really into, and it's not like they disliked it, but it just kind of, it didn't really feel earned to me when it happened.
Well, it worked for me, but I'll let you get your point across first, and then I'll say why it worked for me.
No, that's it. I mean, it didn't really feel earned. It kind of felt just there just to have like the shocking moment. And it didn't seem like it built up to that in a way where it felt satisfying to me. Like, it kind of felt a little too out of nowhere, I guess. But what did you think?
Well, I mean, I think they have to keep the new version of Spider-Man's origin story as close to the originals as possible, right? Like, you need to have a family member, an uncle, I guess, that dies, so loss. That's like what they kind of established in this movie, is every Spider-Man needs to know that loss. So they have to have that common theme. I think where it feels earned for me is the twist with the dad. I don't know if I've ever seen a superhero with a dynamic like this with his parents. Like, his dad is a cop working. His uncle was a villain. Yeah, that's just different enough, but just similar enough to be interesting to me. And the relationship with the dad, I think, is the emotional center of the movie for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, agreed. The one thing I was worried about with the dad, so the dad sees that his brother has died, and he saw Spider-Man right there. I thought that he was going to be like the new J. Jonah Jameson, where he's like, I will, get Spider-Man no matter what. But it really works because he's so upset and angry at Spider-Man, but it works for the catharsis at the very end, where Spider-Man, and him kind of team up and they become friends. And I thought that really worked well for me. And that's also the guy from Atlanta. He was also in the Widows. That guy was in everything this year.
Paperboy from Atlanta?
Yeah, Paperboy, yeah.
Oh, man,
yeah.
Cool.
I don't know Atlanta, but I saw that he was the guy from Widows. The guy who was like running against Colin Farrell.
Brian Tyree Henry.
Yeah, so good. Everybody from Atlanta is coming out of that on top.
Well, by the way, if you guys like the story of Miles Morales, you should play the Spider-Man PS4 game. That's all I'm saying.
Man, if I had a PS4, I would, but...
Yeah.
If I had the Spider-Man game for my PS4, I would.
It'll be cheap soon.
Yeah, one day.
What do you guys think about the character designs?
Like the animation?
Kingpin. Yeah. I think with animation, the villains can be more interesting and intimidating. Like, Kingpin can just be a big monster, and you don't really have to explain it. You can just have it be, and you can believe that he's just a big guy.
A big square with a
or like the Scorpion.
Yeah.
He came in with like robotic legs, and just in the realm of animation, you can really take advantage of the comic book medium without having to try to ground it in reality.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's what this movie does so well, is the comic design and the way they, like, for instance, Spider-Ham shows up and he's just a 2D animation, and then noir, and the way that it crosses, what would you call it, like art genres, or art styles, is animation styles, is so great. And to me, I know it works really well for me, and I really like the way it's done.
I think it's part of what helps me get used to the animation of the movie, like the way it starts before the universes cross over, is once we get different characters and different animation styles, I don't know, it makes the movie's original animation just seem like another style, as opposed to me having to like convince myself that this is the world. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I also think it helps the Spider-Man villain issue, because I think we have like weird Spider-Man villains here that work in an animated style, whereas like a lot of the other Spider-Man villains from the movies feel a little too cartoonish to be in a live action movie. And so
that makes sense. Yeah.
They work better here for me.
I really like the way, and it's done very quickly, but it's done so quickly and you understand completely where he's coming from. But that's Wilson Fisk and his backstory. Like maybe 5 to 30 seconds long, but you completely understand where he's coming from and why he's trying to do what he's doing, and it's really great, I thought.
Is that the Kingpin?
Yeah, Kingpin. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, his backstory I thought was good and interesting, and kind of follows the trend of villains that we've had in some of the comic book superhero movies this year that have actually been good villains.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you like Kingpin, you should check out the first season of Daredevil. I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't, just because it ends up going nowhere.
There's too many seasons of things to watch on Netflix. So I can't put that one in right now.
I'll agree with that. But Vincent D'Onofrio's performance as Kingpin is, I think, really good.
Yeah, that's
what
true.
I hear.
I'll give it that. But man, season 2 of Daredevil sucks.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else? I kind of want to talk about the end credit scene, but I'll save that for the end.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this.
I'm done, I think.
I mean, I guess if you're listening to this part, you've probably seen the movie, but there's a after credits scene if you stick around, which I didn't really expect, but I Googled it while the credits were going and found out that it was there. And I really loved it. I thought it was super fun.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
They kind of build you up to thinking they're doing something like setting up for a sequel. They're doing something that like the Marvel movies tend to do regularly, but then they just turn it into like kind of a meme and a joke. And I like that.
Yeah, a pretty great one.
Yeah. And I actually really like the immediate after the movie credits, where all the different Spider-Man are running around, that post-credits sequence. What do you call that? Anyways, just the credits.
It's like an end title sequence.
Yeah. I enjoyed that too, but yeah,
I was
the meme.
I was Googling to find out if there was an end credit scene during most of that.
Did you guys pick up on whose voice was in the last?
Oscar Isaac?
Yeah, it was Oscar
Isaac, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking whoever was doing it's really funny.
Yeah.
That guy's funny.
Yeah, he is. One thing that I thought was rewarding, I know I've brought the PS4 game up like twice now, but I'm going to do it again. It helped me appreciate a lot of the suits in this, like a lot of Easter eggs that, like, because I don't read comics, right? So like I've only seen the movies. So I don't catch a lot of the Easter eggs and like a lot of the references, but like I knew like Noir Spider-Man and the Spider-Man suit from the last like post-credit scene, and a couple other ones that were in his like Spider-Man Batcave. A lot of those were actually like alternate suits in the game, so that was kind of cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, I actually believe that the Spider-Man from the video game made an appearance in this. I couldn't tell you where or when, but I either read that or heard it somewhere.
Like the Spider-Man suit from the PS4 version?
Yeah, that Spider-Man shows up in here.
Yeah, that's a really cool suit. I like it a lot. Yeah. What'd you guys think of Miles Morales' Spider-Man suit?
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I like the way he spray painted it.
Yeah, I like how it looks like Spider-Man, but it looks like a different Spider-Man, different color scheme. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of just like when he first bought the suit. I forgot he spray painted it. We just bought like
that was also a funny
fit.
I
was talking about his main black suit at the end, like the one he spray painted. What do you think of that one?
It was cool. I liked it.
One of my favorite lines has to be where Miles Morales shows up to the funeral where Mary Jane is talking, and he's got the Spider-Man mask on, and she's like, "All of you can be Spider-Man." And then Miles Morales is like, "I can be Spider-Man," or something along those lines. And the guy next to him turns to him and he's like, "I don't think she was talking specifically to you." It's really funny.
Yeah. Like, I think she was saying it more in like a metaphorical sense.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, that was funny.
I like the scene whenever they're breaking into the office of Dr. Octavius.
Yes,
and Miles can't get off the ceiling.
Oh yeah, all of his stuff where he was like sticking to stuff. Like I really enjoyed the whole sequence where he sticks his hand to Gwen Stacy's or Spider Woman's
the hair.
Yeah, he's like, "It's just puberty." It's like, I don't think you know what puberty means.
Yeah. Really funny.
That was all pretty great.
A lot of good humor in it. A lot of jokes that like I think for the most part, like all of the jokes in the movie landed for me.
I like how Noir Spider-Man couldn't see the Rubik's Cube colors.
Oh, yeah.
He was so fascinated by it. And
it was like, I'm going back, but I'm taking this with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
And then in the credits, so he's finally figured it out, and it's this Rubik's Cube, and it's up on a pedestal, and he looks so proud, and he's showing it to everybody in the black and white world. It's so funny.
Yeah. So do you guys think that this is going to launch a whole bunch of other sequels and stuff? And would you like more animated sequels? Like, personally speaking, I like this more than the current live action, even though I like Spider-Man Homecoming, right? But when they're done with Spider-Man in the MCU, I wouldn't be opposed to just more superhero movies like this. You know, more animated ones, less live action.
Yeah, I agree. This shows
I think you
what
can just do so much
do.
more with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, Spider-Man 3, everybody's like, oh, there's too many villains in it. And there's like 3 villains in it. This one has like every villain in it. And it still works, right? And I think it works because you're also not explaining every single villain's backstory. You know, we get like one villain's backstory, and that's all we need. But anyways, yeah, I hope we do get more of these. And I'm pretty sure we are going to.
Oh, definitely. It's been a massive success.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how they do it. Like, are we going to get a Spider Pig? Oh, that's another joke that I really like. That Spider Pig was originally a spider that got bit by a radioactive pig. But that's canon. That's actually what happened in the comics. But anyways, like, I wonder if we're going to get a movie that's just Spider Pig. You know, that I don't know if I'm this interested in that.
Spider Ham.
Spider. Oh, okay.
Peter Porker.
Yes. All right.
I like when he hands him the mallet at the end, and he's like, "It'll fit in your pocket."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sweet. Yeah. I would be totally down for more movies like this. Like I said way back at the start of this review, that for me, it's like far and away the best Spider-Man movie. And, I think it could be the best version of a lot of other superhero movies, too.
I was about to say, is this your favorite superhero movie?
It's possible. It's up there. Like, it's probably in my top 3. I'd have to really think about that a little bit more. And maybe I should have.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. It's one of the best reviewed animated films of the year. Yeah,
it's my favorite animated movie. Actually, it might be the only animated movie I've seen. So
I've seen a couple, but this is hands down better. And it beats the pants off Incredibles, too.
It does. Do you think this movie wins Best Animated Oscar?
Did a Pixar movie come out this year? Incredibles 2.
The one I just got done complaining about.
Then no.
It should, though.
It's going to be close. But yes, I agree with you, Mike. It should. I need to see Wreck-It Ralph, but I can't imagine Wreck-It Ralph being as good or better.
I think if it was, we would have heard a lot more about Wreck-It Ralph by now.
Yeah. That's true.
So I did put out a question on Twitter saying that I was watching the movie, and if anyone had any interesting thoughts or feedback to send them in, and we might read it on the show. We got a bunch of responses, but pretty much all of them were just unanimously being like, yeah, this movie's really, really good.
Yeah.
One person even claimed it was the best animated movie ever, which is a bit of a bold statement, but
maybe a little hyperbole.
Yeah, but you know what?
Bollock.
If they feel that, rock on, man.
Go with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Rock on.
Yeah. So I guess go to our Twitter and check out that tweet if you want to read everyone's reviews. There's a good amount of them.
It seems to be overwhelmingly positive right now. So you know what? I would be more interested to know that if you didn't like the movie, let us know why. That would be more interesting to me than just more people agreeing that it's good.
True. Very true. So does that do it for this episode then?
I think it does it for me.
I am finished talking about Spider-Man.
Cool. Well, thanks.
Welcome back, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for talking to me again. I've enjoyed it.
Was there a question that we might not talk to you again?
I don't know. I thought you might like the guest so much that you'd just be like, you know what?
This
guy's better than Justin. Let's get him out. Let's get rid of that guy. This is way better without
Justin. The podcast.
Yeah. We love you too much, Justin.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so thank you, listener, for listening to this. And of course, as always, thanks Jake Wagner Russell for doing our intro and outro music. You can hear more of his music at soundcloud.com/bopscotch.
Next week, we will not have an episode for the podcast, even though there's like 3 huge movies coming out that week. It is the week of Christmas. We will be busy, but we will see you the week after.
That's right.
In the new year, with that. So, yeah, we won't see you guys until the new year. It'll be 2019.
Yeah. I will likely see at least 1 or 2 of the big movies, maybe Mary Poppins and something else. So I will probably talk about it on the week back.
You'll have a lot to talk about then.
Yeah. So that should be a big episode. But you know what? I hope everyone has a very safe holiday.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Be safe. Be happy.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah. In the meantime, just, if you want to talk to us, say hey, or just stay up to date with what we're going to be doing next week, or in 2 weeks, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast.
Thanks so much for listening, guys, and we'll see you next year.
Bye-bye.
See you later.